Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kentucky Small Business Development Center's weekly webinar. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director of the SBDC Center here in Louisville, Kentucky. As you come in and get settled, I'd like to take a few minutes to share some information about the Kentucky SBDC program. The Kentucky Small Business Development Center is a statewide program providing professional expertise, tools, and information necessary for entrepreneurs to start, fund, and grow their businesses. We do this at no cost, thanks to the U.S. Small Business Administration, the University of Kentucky, as well as regional universities, colleges, and local economic development agencies. To learn more, visit us at KentuckySBDC.com. There you'll find additional resources I know you'll find very helpful. If you'd like to request personal assistance, shoot us an email at info@KentuckySBDC.com or call 1-888-414-7232. If you look to the right to the screen, you'll find the chat feature, and just to test that everything's working and you can hear me loud and clear, do me a favor. Say hello and tell us your name and where you're joining from. It looks like Steve, Dave, how are you? Leo Fonte, good to see you this afternoon. As we go through our presentation today, if you have any questions for our presenter, you can post them here, comments, anything like that, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Again, I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director of the Louisville Center here in Louisville, Kentucky. We're one of 17 centers across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And as always, later this afternoon, we'll shoot you in a recording of this webinar. So today we have a great presenter, my great friend, Foster McCarl. He is a certified business coach with Action Coach here in Louisville, Kentucky. And Foster has tons of experience. He's a great resource. I call on him often. And Foster has a great playbook that he uses to help businesses grow, kind of 6 steps. And any type of strategy, you have to kind of follow a playbook and kind of figure out how what works and what doesn't. And Foster has this kind of filled out. So Foster, welcome. I'm glad to see you today.
Awesome. David, thank you very much. Good to see. I'm very happy Leo's on here, by the way, because I just got delivered. I'm at the my office at the Logic Workspace in Honolulu. So I get to make an order and then they bring the coffee to me. And literally just before we started, they brought me my double espresso. So definitely highly caffeinated, not just for you, Leo, but I know you appreciate it.
Yeah, Leo's got a window seat with my name on it, so yeah, I'm happy often.
That's in fact, you know what's funny? Just a quick aside, Dave and I actually the last physical meeting I had was with you at his place before the pandemic. I remember we went in. I was like, "Do we shake hands? Do we bump?" Nobody had masks or anything yet. It was just March, I think. And that was so funny. You're like, I don't know. And I'm like, neither do I. So, and then like 2 weeks later, everything closed. Right. It's not our fault, though, I promise.
Right.
Anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. My name is Foster McCarl. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I see there's a couple of, I saw another business coach on here, which is great. I love what we do as coaches. I think everybody should have a coach. Just from an accountability standpoint, I practice abundancy, so I don't need everybody to like me or have me as a coach, but I suggest you get somebody that you trust and respect. So today we're going to talk about the 6 steps to a better business. Now, nothing I talk about today is really going to be a new mousetrap per se. There's only so many different business ideas that are out there. What I found is that they are often constructed in a form that some people are ready to hear different parts of it at some time in their journey in their business. So that's what a lot of today is going to be. I want this to be interactive, so please go ahead and put questions in the box and we'll hopefully answer them. And all right, let's get going. So the question that I always like to ask, is it okay if I coach you for the next hour? Because that gives me a little bit more, not that I can yell at you, but it gives me a little bit more wherewithal to make some strong suggestions or something like that. But the idea today is just to give you some more information for increased sales and profits, looking at freeing up your time and hopefully creating more of a team of your choosing. We all have the team that we deserve. That might scare some of you when you look around at your team, but it's important to note. So a little bit about Action Coach. If you don't know about Action Coach, I'm a franchise owner. We're in over 70 countries. There's 1,000 coaches worldwide. It's very global. I really, the main reason that I'm with them is because of the amazing group of coaches that I get to learn from and reference as I go through coaching. I've been with them since 2012. And I've been in coaching and as a consultant with my father before that since 2006. There's some particulars. The only thing that's really important is on the right side of the screen. I have an 18-year-old daughter, Emma, who's actually just outside this door working at the workspace. And I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 9-month-old, Liam and Connor. So yes, and I'm 47. So if you do the math, I took a little break and got back on the horse, as it were, and truly am blessed. Actually, just so grateful for my life today and the opportunity to be of service to others, and that's why I'm here today for David. So, next. So connect for me, for yourselves, anytime you're on a webinar or something like this, the idea is to connect with people. So fostermccarl@actioncoach.com is the website. On my Facebook page, I do a Facebook Live every Friday at 10, except this Friday, of course, because I've got a strategic planning session at a client's place with his team in Southern Kentucky. But in general, you'll be able to find that, and you'll be able to find past Fridays with Foster on that. And LinkedIn, what I really want people to do when you go onto LinkedIn, and again, this is not going to be a new mousetrap idea for you guys, but when it comes to LinkedIn, just real quick, if you actually go through all of my contacts that I have in LinkedIn, and there's somebody you want to meet, ask me for an introduction. I'll let you know if I know them. I'd be happy to give you an introduction. If I don't really know them and they're just a LinkedIn connection, then I'll let you know that as well. But when people just send me like connections randomly, I'm not going to say it always falls on deaf ears, but well, if they say they're going to help you generate more leads and stuff like that, I can tell they're asking for they're asking a first kiss before they're taking me out on the date. I'm like, come on, man, that's not how I play it. But if somebody tells me, hey, you've got to call this person, I really want you to do me a favor and call this person, and it's an actual human that we know, I'm willing to entertain that. So. Action's definition of successful business is wonderful. A commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. Each of these has a space in the definition of the 6-step process that we're going to talk about today. So the 6 steps to massive results are the following. So we've got the first step is mastery. And that's when we get more stability in the business. And as it says here, we eliminate that chaos. Next is niche or niche marketing is really what we want to call it, because you want to find a way that we create consistent cash flow and we're not competing on price. Then we leverage your business by creating systems, and they are scalable and replicable. Then we look on improving your team. So we have the right people in the right seats on the bus. You've heard that before, but they're the right people for you might not be the right people for another business. So I think everybody thinks there's this big cloud of the right people and everybody's firing for it. And we always hear people complaining there's not enough business or not enough new people to run my business, and they can't find the right people. And I think there's enough people out there that are currently working that are not happy with where their position is or where they're going, but they're not unhappy enough to go on Indeed. So maybe what you do is just create some ads on Facebook like you're trying to sell a widget to find people to address the issues that they're not actually being fulfilled with right now in their company. And then we've got synergy, and that's when we really put into place systems. And results is when we take passive income pretty much, and we're able to take this model and just replicate it. So first, mastery. So we talk about that definition, right? A commercial enterprise. So a commercial enterprise is something that is organized. It's something that is more controlled. Anybody in business for any period of time here is going to say, oh, Shannon, Steelers, what's up? I just saw that now. See how easy? That's my squirrel. Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh originally, so big Steelers fan. So with mastery, the success is very boring. Failure is flippin' exciting, man. You want some excitement? We have 3 weeks to make payroll, and we just had a big piece of equipment go down, and now we need to pay $7,000 to have it fixed. And we got mama drama with one of our people. Another guy we found out is dating somebody is in the service department, and they're out fighting. Oh man, you want that? That's exciting. Very difficult to be successful. So what I love is the idea that success cannot exist where there is drama or complexity. So we want to remove as much of those that we can control as possible. Right now, we're going to focus on the complexity part. So there are 4 areas to mastery that I want you to look at when it comes to your business. Destination mastery, money mastery, time mastery, and delivery mastery. Essentially what we're doing there is we're just determining destination mastery. Where are we going with this business? What's the goal? And that can change over time, but we always tend to under goal for the future and over goal for the short term, right? So we just want to look a little bit more future focused. Money mastery, I mean, are you living and dying from your numbers? Are you looking at your P&L, your balance sheet, and your statement of cash flow every month, every maybe balance sheet every quarter? Are you comparing your last year, this month, last year, this quarter, last year to this quarter, this year on your balance statement? Are you educating yourself about your numbers? Now, I'm not suggesting you need to dig in, become an expert in QuickBooks. I highly recommend you get somebody else to do that. But what you need to be as a CEO and a business owner, you've got to be an expert in the knowledge of your numbers and have money mastery. When you have true control over your numbers, real control and mastery, you can actually increase your profitability without trying to increase your revenue. Revenue is for vanity and profit is for sanity. When you get that down pat, you have money mastery. Time mastery, there's no such thing as time management. I'm sorry for those of you who are trying to manage your time. It's not possible. We all have 24 hours. What I talk about for me is I talk about Foster management, because I have to manage the decisions that Foster makes on a daily basis and on a moment-to-moment basis in order to make sure I'm focusing on the things that are going to move my business forward or help me personally, physically, spiritually, mentally, in my relationships, in my marriage, in my parenting. These are all decisions that I have to make on a daily basis with the same 24 hours that everybody else has. And then we have delivery mastery. So what's delivery mastery? How many of you have ever been to a restaurant where you had a wonderful meal and you went back a couple weeks later and ordered the same thing and it wasn't quite so good at all? Probably because the person who made it when you were there was gone and somebody else was making it. They didn't have any consistency in delivery. They didn't, in their delivery methods, they didn't have a process. They didn't have maybe quality control. Maybe they didn't have quality control in the way the ingredients were ordered or who collected them or how they were prepared. But there was a lack of system. So what we want to do is we want to create a system as much as possible. We can still be nimble as a small business, but there are enough things out in the world in our business that we cannot control, that we need to control the things that we can. So replicating how certain steps are followed and conducted in the way we deliver our product or service is paramount. It's also what helps people to come back and continue doing business with us. Next, niche marketing, or as they say in Australia, where our founders from niche marketing. The idea behind this is the profitable part, right? A commercial profitable enterprise. You're going to be profitable. Everybody's here to make profit. A lot of times in a lot of businesses, and again, throw questions in here if you want in the chat. I'm not sure if I'm looking at the bottom or the top. I think the top is where they're coming in next, but you're welcome, Ryan or David, if you want to interrupt me when somebody else has a question in there. But when it comes to profitable business, I think we all look at the idea we can chase around revenue and not focus on profit, and it gets really old really fast, because then we start asking ourselves a question saying, why are we bothering? Why are we spending all of our time doing something or acting like a nonprofit, but we are a for-profit business? Why are we making those decisions? So there are certain things within the niche marketing that we do is we try and figure out how we can better position ourselves in the business. We can't compete on price. Niche marketing is not about competing on price. That's a very good one. There's riches and niches. I'll tell you, man, I mean, I could outbid everybody on this call right now. Whatever your service is, I'll do it cheaper. Now, I might only be in business for a day, but I'll steal that business from you for a day. Do you really want the person who's willing to go for somebody like me who doesn't have credibility in your industry, but they're just shopping by price? I love when people go asking, hey, how much is this? How much is that? That's the first question out. And you say, well, people always ask, well, how do I answer that question? That's wonderful. I love answering that question by saying, I can't really tell you how much this costs yet until I understand exactly what your needs are. That's like saying, how much does a drink cost at Fonte's? I don't know. That depends on what you like, what you don't. So the idea is to dig in. And when people don't want to answer that question, like, oh, this guy's just not going to give me a price. They're like, okay, great. Well, they just deselected themselves from your business, which is going to save you a lot of headaches. They need to understand the value of what you bring. What we like to do is we like to present a USP, unique selling proposition. So what is it that I do different than anybody else in my industry or that's in this area in my industry? I mean, I'm a business coach, so I'm in I think it was it Melissa? Who was the other business coach? I thought I saw her name. So I'm sorry, Elizabeth. So in Middlesbrough, I mean, we're in an unregulated industry. So technically, anybody on this call could hang a shingle tomorrow and say, I'm a business coach. And that is pretty much it. There's nothing anybody can say about it. You can read a bunch of books and get some information, learn some buzzwords, and that's great. So I like to think, what makes me unique as a business coach? Well, I like to think of what I do that's different. I'm a little bit more, well, as you might be able to tell from this, I can be a little intense. I can also be an unreasonable friend. There are many times that I establish a deep relationship with my clients, and I'm just thinking this through as I'm saying it to look at what differentiates me as you try and figure out what differentiates me from something. And maybe if you think you're a commodity, what differentiates you? Well, I'm able to have deep and effective relationships with my clients to the point where sometimes I've had them tell me about pregnancy before telling their parents. I've had family businesses come to me and talk to me about drug addiction and alcoholism in their families and not talk to anybody else about it. And that to me, I would think is unique. It definitely is for them because they don't have other people that they talk to about this that they feel comfortable. So what's unique about what I do? What I do is I create a safe emotional environment for them so we can get the stuff out of the way that's preventing them from running their business the way they want to run it and be profitable. So when you have a guarantee in your business, most people are like, I do a guarantee. Sorry, that's a little too much. You automatically think about losing money. Well, there are things that we can do right now that you are current, or we can market right now that you're currently doing in your business that would actually be thought of as a guarantee. It's not something new that you have to make. Everybody thinks guarantee means money back for whatever. If you get upset about something, you don't like where the sun is that day, you can return your computer. And how are we going to deal with losing that much money? No, guarantee can be something about how you deliver your product or service. There can be a certainty. There can be a speed. There can be a certain level of expertise that you truly explore with a client whenever you're providing them with an experience, right? All of those can be guarantees. It's not just about, happy or your money back. That's kind of that's the easy one, the lazy one. Most of the companies that do that are kind of like rebates. With rebates, the reason why that they have rebates is most people don't send them back in. That's why. Not because they figured out a way to give money back and still make money. They count on people not cashing that in. So just think about that. What is something that you do that none of your competitors do? Okay. Test and measure. I was just talking to Dave and Ryan about this before, about testing and measuring. So, I mean, none of this stuff, like I said, it's not, as I jokingly say, it's not rocket surgery. The things that we do in our business, what it really comes down to is I measure where I am because the best map in the world is useless unless you know where you are. So I measure where I am. I test one new idea, one new concept, a new piece of technology, a new piece of hardware, a new piece of software, and then I measure the results. That's pretty much how it goes. And then wash, rinse, and repeat. That's it. We do that in our marketing. We do that in the way we onboard people. We do that in the way we run automation for products and services, especially for manufacturing. We just test and measure and test and measure. We don't run out there and spend $50,000 on a new marketing idea because we heard it's cool. We start with $5,000. And then we test and measure and see what happens. That's what I love about a lot of the social media and other online marketing aspects that you can, split test different results. There's a guy with a red shirt and there's a guy with a blue shirt. And then somebody's going to get more hits before you determine who you're going to go with. So we like to test and measure everything in our business. So how do we do this? Well, pause for caffeinated effect. That's good. Okay. So as this states, most business owners know this is what's called the 5 ways aspect of growing our business. So we know how many customers, they know what their revenue is, and they know what their profit is, right? But these 3 things that we're measuring here, the number of customers, revenue, and profit, these are simply results. Everybody wants more customers, right? Well, how do you get more customers? You don't just wish for more customers. You don't just say, I'm going to increase my revenue. And you don't simply say, well, my profit's going to increase today. There are certain things we can do to affect that, and we'll talk about that. But these are results of other things that we do in our business. So we're going to put some numbers in here. So we like to take 5. So if you look at the blue here, we have 5 ways, or these 5 blue numbers here, categories. And then we've got the 3 that we talked about before in red that are the results. Customers, revenue, profit. So number of leads. I like to think this example, small numbers, but on an annual basis. So number of leads we have coming in through various resources. I don't care if you put a phone number on a hot air balloon, or if you have a very focused Google ad, or you have people putting flyers on windshields, or you have a salesman going out and drumming up business. There are a number of leads that come in, whatever that might be. Here it's 4,000. If we have a 25% conversion rate, it gives us 1,000 customers for the year. Great. This is the tough part. Not everybody likes to track the customers in this way, where the number of transactions per customer per year, right? A lot of times we look at total customers per year, but not how many times did Lisa Smith buy my product or service this year, right? And different industries are obviously going to have higher or lower numbers. I mean, the mortgage industry, unless you're refinancing, but new mortgages per individual client, well, that's going to be like, what do they say, like once every 30 years fixed, although it doesn't happen like that, or even 15. People are moving every 7 years or so now. But that can let us know how we can track, or that tracking can let us know the number of transactions. If you're in a retail business or something of that nature, obviously you're going to have a higher volume, higher turnaround, and it's a really fast. That's why I love working with restaurants, because when you implement something, you get to see the results right away. We're going to add this to the menu, and 2 days later, we get to see what the effect is. So it's really cool. But anyway, so we like to track the number of transactions. Then we have the average dollar sale. So what's the average ticket sale? What's the average dollar sale of the items? Now, some people have to split this up, because a lot of times they'll have, something on the low end that's, $15 or $20, and they'll have something on the high end that's $2,000. And to bring that into together might skew the numbers a little bit. But I had a hardscaping company that did like travertine and $10,000, $20,000 driveways in South Carolina. And what we did was we really needed to up their average dollar sale, because what they did was they had like one side of their business that was like small repairs and small installations of $1,000 to $2,000. Then they had this other side that they loved that was like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 driveways, these huge estates. And so what we looked at their average dollar sale was something like $5,000, because they had a lot of these really small deals. And we didn't realize that. I'd be like, how is our average dollar sale so small? Well, a lot of times when they have a small driveway, they still need the same equipment as a large driveway, And that equipment, when it's on the small one, is not on a large one. So we had to shift that around. Then we have profit margins. Of course, profit margins are profit margins. So what we do is we multiply these through, right? So 4,000, a 25% conversion rate, which is pretty good. A lot of people think they've got a really high conversion rate. I like to tell people if their conversion rate is really, really high, you probably need to raise your prices and keep raising them until you see the numbers start to switch or fall down a little bit. That's going to give us our total number of customers, multiply that by number of transactions, and average dollar sale gives us $200,000 as our total revenue, times 25% equals $50,000 in profit. If there are any questions so far, put them in here. I know I'm going a little bit fast with this, but there's a lot of information and I've had a lot of coffee this morning. So I want to take it down a notch whenever you have questions so I can make sure to answer them. My email, though, is at the bottom of every one of these slides. So if you do have something, if you have a list of questions you want to reach out to me afterwards, you can definitely do that if we don't have a chance here in the workshop. So here's the deal, though. A lot of times people are saying, oh, let's double your business. Let's do this. I'll tell you what, man, if the number of people that came up to me and asked me to double their business, I actually doubled, they would go out of business because they don't have the team, they don't have the resources, they don't have the systems to deal with twice as much business. So let's just take it easy on the whole double your business, double my leads. Let's just go with 10%, okay? So if we increased by 10% our number of leads, so 10% of 4,000 is 400, so 4,400 per year. That seems reasonable to me to get an extra 400 per year. Increasing your conversion rate by 27.5 or by 10%, which is 27.5. So that seems reasonable to me, 2.5%. There are many different things we can do. And at the end of this, mark this down, send me an email if you'd like. And I have it's not this specific presentation, but it is in a PDF form. But most importantly, I have a list of the five ways, specific areas of focus, and I think 120 or 128 different tactics that you can use for each of these. Now, some of them are archaic. I think there's still like a yellow pages in there or something silly like that for how to increase the number of leads, but you take it with a grain of salt. And I also have another thing with systems and the 4 systems that we're going to talk about shortly. So go ahead and email that, and I'll give it to you. So for conversion rate, the reason I bring that up right now is conversion rate is going to give us a one thing that can improve in conversion rate is maybe the way we deliver our proposals. So if you have a proposal-based business, a way you can increase your conversion rate might be, instead of just emailing it and letting it go, maybe you actually hand deliver it. Of course, Delta variant pandemic, maybe what you do is you use hello sign instead of just an email so you can see when they open it. And as soon as they open it, you get an email and then you can call them on the spot to review it. Or you only send it to them in the moment that you have a review session set up with them to review, thereby increasing your conversion rate, et cetera, et cetera. So we increase those two, then what do you see? Well, increasing those by 10% actually increases the number of customers now because of the way the formula works exponentially to 21%. When we increase our number of transactions to 2.2, our average dollar sale up to 110, we multiply that by the 121. That's going to be an increase to 292,820, which is, I think, a 43% increase. It's really remarkable. And then increasing profit margins another 10%, it's 27.5, brings us up to 80,000, which I think is a 63% increase. So all these things are doable. We just do a little bit at a time and measure these things. That's the important thing about this program. So like I said, there's no new mousetrap here, right? It's no new math. There's just ways that we put these things together in a way that we can measure them easier and affect many different aspects of the business by only taking a few steps and implementing a few different strategies. So that's niche marketing. Next, we have leverage. A commercial, profitable enterprise that works. Oh my gosh. Something that actually works, meaning it's consistent, right? Ever more with ever less. Leverage. A lot of times when we start our businesses out, we get really excited because we're small, we're nimble, we can do things that the big guys can't do, like, adjust prices where we want to, right? Down the line, that becomes a little bit dangerous because then when we start to create a financial projection for your business, you've got these prices. Well, what do you charge? Well, this guy, he was a friend, so I charged him X. And then this guy was in an industry I really wanted to get into, so I charged him this much. And the idea is that you don't really get to see a true understanding of what your prices are, even though your costs are going to continue to go up. I want you to remember one thing, and this is one of my favorite quotes in business. Discounting. A discount is nothing more than a financial apology because you don't believe in your product or service. I'm going to say it one more time. A discount is a financial apology because you don't believe in your product or service. When it comes to leverage, we need to be succinct. We need to be consistent. Okay, so the way we look at leverage, and this is a great example that we call it the chassis, right? The chassis of a vehicle. There's the same chassis used to build a VW Golf or an Audi R8. Anybody who knows a little bit about cars, the R8 is probably the nicer car. Although one of my best friends growing up had a Golf, and I was always jealous because it was a cool hatchback. But anyway, the point being that there's a lot of different things we can do with our business on top of that chassis. The chassis is that marketing 5 steps that we just walked through, right? So those are the 5 ways that we just walked through, because there are different things that we can do with each of those numbers. Some people are going to go right up to the top and just try and get more leads first. I don't usually suggest that. I usually suggest looking at the bottom line and making sure profitability is set right, because it's pretty easy to raise prices. And if you have other questions about that, you can let me know, email me. I've got a great one sheet, 2 sheet front and back about discounting. And it's a chart for discounting versus raising prices depending on your profit margin, how much more you would have to lose in order to truly lose money in clients or patrons when it comes to purchasing your product at a higher price. And I'll tell you what, the majority of the time, nobody asks questions. Most people, you think they're going to leave, they're not going to leave. And if you raise your prices, guess who leaves? The people that are price shopping anyway, and they don't truly value your product or service. Anybody who's ever raised prices that I've worked with, if I love them as a business, I don't really care. Now, you have to do it in the right way, and you can't be ridiculous about it. But anyway, so we talk about leverage. Leverage, if you haven't heard this before, is about systems, saving yourself time, energy, and money. System and process. A process in a system is not a process in a system if it is not written down. So in your business, if you've got, I have clients that come in here all the time and I say, okay, so you have a process for this. We'll be going through an aspect of their business. They'll say, yep. And I said, okay, well, what is it? Well, no. Send it to me. Email it to me. If it's stuck in here, not only can I not see it, none of your team can see it. So it's not a real system. So make sure to write it down. So we try to break it down into the 9 steps to systemizing the business and leverage, right? So we like to have a vision statement. Where are we going? A mission statement. How do we get there? A culture statement. So this is something internally, how we get people in and keep the door swinging in with how we treat our people. We care about professional development. We care about our people's families. We care about giving them a proper pay for what they do or more. SMART goals. If you're not familiar with SMART goals, email me. I'm sure everybody has seen those. We really need to have these as SMART that we can track, that are actually quantifiable. An org chart, if you go into my Fridays with Foster, it was last Friday, my Fridays with Foster. And by the way, those are some of the beginning ones are a little bit longer, but mainly now, or for the last few months, have been just 10 minutes. So last week's 10 minutes was the tale of 6 org charts. There are 6 different kinds of org charts plus one that I like to see every business have, because it tells you a little bit more and can help you reconstruct certain areas of your business around your people, but not only restricted by your people. So it's very helpful. But anyway, organizational chart, very important. Positional contracts. Some people call these job descriptions. A position contract or a position agreement is something where it actually has measurables. So we have like an area of responsibility. We've got some activities for that area, which is usually what people call their to-do lists on the only part of a job description. And then on the other side, we like to talk about measurements for success. So anytime I work with anybody who's not quite sure how things are going in their business, I always like to ask, how is success measured in this area of the business, in this department? How do you measure success for Steve over here in this position that he's been doing for 15, 20 years? But how do you measure success? And does he know that? And does he measure success in the same way? Positional contracts and position agreements help us cut right through that. KPIs, key performance indicators. How are we measuring success? Again, very specifically and quantitatively. How-to systems, right? Is there a way that we are training people and onboarding people so they understand how to use the products and services in a way that makes sense to them, that is consistent? And then management systems. So management systems are about, so I like to say the difference between leadership and management. Managers manage systems, leaders manage people. We have to be able to keep our eye on the systems to make sure that they are still relevant and maybe need to be upgraded as well as implemented. But on the other side of that, we need to make sure we have the right leaders leading people to use those. Okay, so team, a commercial profitable enterprise that works. How? Without you. Or without you working in the same position with the same levels of responsibility that you had 2 years ago, 5 years ago when you started the business. If you want to walk around the business and shake hands and kiss babies or just hand out bonus checks at the Christmas party every year, that's fine. But if you always have that billable hour mentality, even if you're a solopreneur, you can outsource so many things today for people that can do it a lot better than you can and a lot cheaper. But cheaper, Foster, I don't have to pay myself. No, cheaper, because the most valuable thing we have is our time. And the time it would take you to learn how to build a website on Squarespace, you can pay somebody else a couple $100s and have it done for you in a very simple way. Maybe more than a couple hundred, but either way, it's going to be a lot better, a lot cleaner, more functional, and take a lot less time than for you to learn it. Okay, so there are different things that we can do. That's all part of being a team. Doesn't mean you have to have W-2 employees stacked in. Sometimes we outsource. But the important thing is the people we bring onto our team, going back to the idea of the culture statement, right? They match the values of the company. If they don't match the values of the company, you'll find out. Remember, we hire for attitude and we train for aptitude. You obviously have to have a baseline of skill set coming in, but we have to make sure that people really match the values of the business. So people that I coach, usually what happens, I don't know if you can see my, my cursor here, but I'm drawing a line between owner and customers, because at the beginning, the owner does everything. The owner takes care of the customers, right? So that's actually not the right way to go. The owner's number one responsibility is taking care of their team, first and foremost. I know that sounds shocking to you, but if they take really good care of their team, they develop their team, they pay them well, they care for them, they make them feel important, they empower them and grow and lead them. Those people are going to take better care of the customers as a whole than you possibly could, if nothing else, just based on sheer numbers and the fact that as your business grows, you are only one person who can do less and less and less on a grand scale. When you grow your team the right way, they can take care of 1 or 200 customers the exact same way because you're taking care of them. Now, your customers, of course, take care of the business. How do they do that? By paying the business. So, and referring people, referring friends, coming back for more. That's how they take care of the business. The business takes care of the owner by money, right? Profit distribution, making sure to pay for them, passive income. That's what's important about that. Synergy, duplication. So we really want to grow. With growth, we actually just take different aspects of our business. We can open up new locations. We can create and develop maybe a new department or a new product or service or offering within our business, because we can just apply everything that we've learned from the marketing to leveraging to our team members. We just duplicate that into another area. And then the last part of this is actually when the last part of this with results is when we actually take that, and a lot of people love what we do. They love the changes we make with the business. how we can take an idea that they've had in their mind and put it down on paper to show how they actually run their business, pluck that up, and then put it over here in a completely different industry and have it be successful. Because it's just business basics. If you never get away from business basics, you never have to get back to the basics. So they love that. And a lot of times in the results aspect, they just like taking that and starting new businesses, starting other companies. They see an opportunity with a company that's selling, especially in a down economy. When the economy's down, it's a great time to buy stuff. It's a great time to buy stuff. Other businesses are going out. Maybe if you've always been to a company, say, gosh, they're great, or they're good, but they could be great if they did X. Well, take what you're doing in your business and replicate it. Okay, so that's where we have some duplication. Richard Branson says, if you can learn to run one business successfully, and there's no reason you can't run any number of businesses at the same time. The principles are the same. They are. You just have to have more people, general managers, people that can take it over. But from a systematic standpoint, it's the same. And then Jim Rohn, I love that, Jim Rohn. Never wish your life was easier, wish that you were better. Nobody in this room, and by the way, thank you everybody for taking a moment out here to really focus on your business, because we're not victims. When I did strategic planning with my father, when we would go around to different mechanical contractors in the country, we would do like a 2-day strategic planning. We would say, do a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We say, what's the biggest threat coming through? And they're like, Trump, Obama, the economy. I was like, well, those aren't really threats. I mean, they're pretty much truths, because they affect everybody in your industry for the most part. So don't lie, in waiting for those things to change. Change yourself, change your business. Those things are happening with every business. So we want to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And as far as your people are concerned, you can't work harder on them as a team than they are working on improving themselves. So be very careful when you find yourself digging in to save somebody in your business, especially if you're in a family business, which, by the way, if you have a family business, just put it in the chat box. I'd like to know who I'm talking to. I've got a couple scars still from my family business growing up, but I also learned a lot, and I'm truly, truly grateful for the time that I had. But a lot of times, especially if there's a family member, you just put a little extra effort, and all of a sudden you're putting in this much effort to improving them as an individual on the team of your business, and they're putting that much effort. You're wondering why it's not working. Why am I so stressed? Blah, blah, blah. Well, that's why. So Tiger, whatever you might think of Tiger, the one thing that was true is that to operate at a level that he was on the golf course was not just him. And anybody that's at a very high level situation, it's about going out, and it doesn't have to be me. Getting a coach, getting a confidant, getting mentors, reaching out to Dave, reaching out to the SBDC. These are all opportunities for you to not have to do it on your own. Why would you repeat mistakes other people have made and learned from? It doesn't have to be done like that. So I mentioned at the beginning that if you wanted a copy of this, the 6 Steps to a Better Business, it's kind of a snapshot of what I talked about, which includes the four different processes and the 5 ways that I discussed before, and some of the things you can do to actually implement through that, strategies and tactics. Send me an email. I'd be happy to do that. Send that to you. And you see my emails down here. I have, because Dave Edkin is such a nice guy and good friend, I have 5 seats available to a quarterly planning. Normal cost, well, I'd say normally it's $100, but because Dave's such a big presence in our lives, and we love Dave so much, it's actually, the value is $1,000. But you're not going to pay anything. So the idea is the first 5 people, and thank you, Leo. David is a great resource. If you don't know David on a personal basis, if you never asked David for help or direction, please do so. He's very giving. He wants the same thing that I want and most people want in this city. He wants to help businesses succeed. My tagline is I'm changing lives one business at a time. I think he would probably agree with that, except I think Dave does it like 10 businesses at a time. He's got a lot under his purvey. But if you're interested in planning for what's coming up to be Q4, then send me an email. The first 5 people to send me an email at fostermccarl@actioncoach.com will come to this. Right now, it's only my clients, but because you guys were with the SBDC and Dave, you can come too. So at the end of this one-day session or half-day session, you're actually going to walk out with a 1-page plan for the quarter. That's going to start with a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's going to go all the way down to the bottom where you actually get some action steps for 3 very specific strategies and objectives to move forward in your business and have a game plan. Because usually what happens at the end of the year, think back to where we were last December and we're like, wow, I thought my business was going to be in a really different spot here. What the heck? And usually it's because only 3% of businesses have some kind of a plan. And the reason that they get a coach after the fact is because I make sure they stick to it. Again, if you ask any of my clients, I'm an unreasonable friend, but I'm unreasonable, right? Because I will risk our friendship to tell you the truth about yourself and your business. So the email, Guillermo, is on the screen, fostermccarl@actioncoach.com. And let me see, anything else there? Thank you very much. I finished early enough for us to take some questions. I'll bring Dave back on if he wants to, or Ryan, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to mute myself in between because I think we were getting a little bit of an echo before. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and jump back and forth. But questions that everybody has, and Dave put my email up there, and I'm happy to ask as specific as you want about your business. I love coaching on the spot. It's one of my most enjoyable things.
Yeah. And Foster's really good at this. So take advantage and kind of give us a couple seconds to think of your most burning question, kind of put it in the chat there, and we'll get right to it. I do want to ask a question, though, Foster, is, when you're trying to put together systems, I've been kind of reading and hearing folks kind of talk about turning a service into a product through some sort of system. Can you talk about that a little bit?
There we go. So a service is essentially a product, and I'll give you an example. A service is simply a set of standards and procedures and processes that you provide again and again and again and again and again, just like having a table full of widgets, right? Now, because it's a service, it's usually not in the form of a process. So things get changed a little bit every time. So we get back to coffee and Leo, right? Not every drink is the same that comes out of there. In fact, I don't know. I mean, I would love to know the numbers. I don't know if you record this with your software, Leo, but the number of actual, I mean, there's so many different kinds of drinks you can get, and everybody wants to add their thing. So Leo could very easily say, well, everything is different. Every drink is different. But there are aspects of that service, not the coffee itself, but from the what would you like to here's your drink that are exactly the same, and makes that service the product. Although I'm sure Leo would say in his business, he's actually not selling coffee. He's in the people business. He happens to use coffee. But how do you make sure that that relationship with the people is consistent in the way that you deliver the service, for one? Secondly, it's about authenticity with the people and the systems that the business provides. If we're never sure how many coffee beans we have over here or there, well, how are we going to make this? How are we going to get this together? How are we going to wait? We have to go in the back again, and the service changes every time. It's not very processed. So if that makes sense, David, I think I like to take, if you have a service, I would take the top 3, 4, or 5 things you do every single time, even if there are 15 other things that change that you don't have control over. Write down those 5 things. That becomes your product-based service process.
That makes sense. Thanks. Donovan asks, do you have targeted tips for small contractors in the construction industry?
Donovan, my man. So my family business was mechanical contracting. I love construction because there are so many ways to change it. Usually the difficult thing in construction So just two things. So yes, I do. Shoot me an email. I'd love to have a coffee with you and talk about it specifically, because there are 1,000 different tips depending on what you're trying to change in your business. But let me say the one thing that I've seen. A business owner will want to change the way that they run their contracting company, and they'll see it as something big and something glorious, but they define themselves as a business owner in work boots, and they'll refuse to become a business owner in loafers and a contractor in loafers, where they'll always have the tool belt on because that's the way they were brought up. Anybody brought up in the trades, and I was an apprentice welder, so I started working at my family business at 9, so I was sweeping floors at 9 years old. Family business is another word for child labor. So I went through that process, and I was in there with these guys who were way smarter than me, pipe fitters, just an unbelievable level. They used to have grease pencils and do takeoffs on the pipes. That's how they did all their math. But these guys were so smart. If any of them, though, were to try and bring up their own business, right? If they can't get out of the mindset of taking that tool belt off and becoming a great leader, they're really going to struggle as a business owner. And in contracting, sometimes people just really like to do the work. And that's okay. What I would say overall is sometimes I bring clients to the point where they say, listen, do you want to do fine carpentry work? Well, then every third project, you get to pick something special. And we will take that something special, and that'll be your project. Nobody can take it away from you. But you're not going to bottleneck the entire operation because you want to keep the tool belt on. So send me an email, Donovan. I'd be happy to meet with you and hear a little bit more about your challenges, and maybe I can help you out.
Yeah, that construction industry itself is a tough nut to crack sometimes because there's a lot of moving parts. Yes, Loy says, I was a millwright apprentice as well. Well, so the 6 steps that we have just kind of stepped through, Foster. How do you start on the first step? I mean, how do you assess where to begin to kind of stem the chaos, as you kind of said?
Okay, first, Donovan, the email address is on the bottom of this thank you sheet as well, and Dave can probably post it again, or I'll send maybe a post email out, or if he gives me contacts, I'll send an email out you guys can reply to. So really, the first place to start. So first of all, there's nothing worse than a bad can of pitch, and that's not why I'm here to pitch me and my services. I love helping people, and that's how I work and make money. But the first thing is to talk to somebody about your challenges. So I don't work with everybody that I meet with, but except ARL instead of ZL. So I don't work with everybody that I meet with, but at the very least, I help them see where some of the issues are in their business, and then I ask questions that they may or may not have ever considered, and usually it's because, especially like in contracting and construction, they don't have time. My dad and I love that we have this great line that it's tough to drain the swamp when you're up to your ass in alligators. And it's true, man, especially in contract, especially in HVAC. I've got HVAC clients in the high season when it's busting 96, 97 degrees. Do you really think they want to call me and sit down and talk about strategy? No, man, if they had their tool belt on, they're out there on rooftops. They're working cranes. They're dropping in, heavy loads. It's like, it's difficult to pull them out. So the first thing I think is just call me, call a business coach, call somebody that's a mentor, call David, have a conversation with this very first step. And the reason why we have that mastery and those 4 aspects of mastery, delivery, time, destination, and money, is because those are the 4 areas that most people first struggle in their business, especially when they're getting to a point that they've never been to in their business. Hiring a couple of project managers, maybe outsourcing sales or something like that they've never done before. That's where we run into problems with people kind of outgrowing their skill set or expertise. That'd be my first suggestion, David, is just reach out. I love having a coffee with people. I don't do a hard sell, that's for sure. It's just not fun. When I was new and I needed the business, I'd work with anybody. Now I'm much more picky about who I work with because it's no fun. If I'm working with somebody and we don't mesh, I become a really expensive friend. And who wants that, man? But I'm willing to meet with people because I truly think that if nothing else, I can help provide value and maybe even make some connections to you and your business to somebody who can help you.
Yeah, that's That's a great point. Especially goes back kind of that slide on that you had on Richard Branson. As you get started, the business, as a business owner, you can pretty much do everything yourself up to a point, and then the business gets to a point where now you have to become real. And if you're good at what you do, that doesn't mean you're good at being a good business owner either.
Definitely not. And that's the thing that's tough. It's like the joke of people who are really good cooks at home, so they decide to start a restaurant. No, I'm friends with Robert Irvine, who does Dinner Impossible and all those shows. And we were at a dinner party once, and one of my friends came up to him and said, "Oh, Robert, I've got this great idea for this restaurant." And he looked at him just deadpan and said, "Why the F would you want to do that?" He's like, owning a restaurant is nowhere near the same thing as cooking food. It's crazy. It's a whole different skill set. You have to let go of so many things. And as with a lot of people, everything I ever let go of had claw marks on it. It's not easy. So anyway, yep, good point, David.
Yeah, there were some good questions coming in. So you mentioned earlier also that when you go through the mastery, kind of step through those 4 systems again, just to kind of reiterate what you would look at, the 4 main systems that you kind of get started with.
Yeah, so the base system, and I don't care what level your business is, we start at the base level. I don't care if you're a $50 million company or a $500 or $1 million company, $500,000 or $1 million company. The idea is that we make sure we start with, it depends on where the pain is the most, but let's say we start with destination. So what kind of company are you trying to build? Why? What kind of impact are you trying to have? Does it serve a purpose, or is the only purpose money? Are you creating this business so you can maybe create an offshoot nonprofit to help homeless people or to help kids or give money to a mission? What's the bigger goal than your goal or money? Because nonprofits are great, but you know what it takes to start a nonprofit, right? Profit. So we like to start there. So that's destination. Then time. Man, we just get pulled into so many different directions. If I don't take care of my time and the decisions and priorities of my life, the rest of the world will dictate exactly what I do with my time. Not because they're mean, but because they're looking out for themselves. I have to protect what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. If you haven't yet gone out and see Stephen Covey's Rocks video, go and Google Stephen Covey Rocks. This talks about time and the most important thing. Don't live to work, work to live. It's a big difference between our country and many other countries. We live to work in this country a lot more than we should. The next thing is the financials. So financials, man, a lot of times, so I get this thing at the bottom of I have a weekly focus sheet with all my clients, right? In the bottom right, I ask every single week, out of 10, what's the value you're getting from coaching? I want to know. My coaching engagements aren't 12 months long or 2 years long. They're month to month. I have to continue to prove my value. So this one of my clients put a 6, which is to me is a little bit low, right? And I'm like, why 6? And I said, you're not getting value? And we had just started working together a couple of months. She's like, oh, no, I'm getting value. She said, I just don't like the fact that you're making me look at my numbers. And I said, you're the business owner. If you're not looking at your numbers, who is? She's like, oh no, I'm getting a lot out of it. I just don't like it. Now, every decision she makes, I'm blessing her because she's giving the numbers, she's checking her P&L, she's doing all this stuff, but it's all about having a personal relationship with your numbers and not being afraid and being willing to learn more. And then the last part in the delivery is making sure that there is a system that I follow so I know exactly what is happening at each step of the process and delivery of my service or in the delivery of the production or manufacture of the product, and ultimately the delivery of that product, the packaging of that product. And in addition to that, the follow-up too. Really, they say the sale begins after they pay. Once they pay you, then there's an opportunity to truly prove what you are selling. Does that help, Dave?
Definitely. A little off topic, but you mentioned about nonprofits. I like to say that I've never started a nonprofit, but I've owned a few.
Unintentional NPOs, yep.
Yeah. So it looks
Thanks,
like we're
Shannon. So Shannon asked the average price for a business coach. Well, if I were not going to listen to my own advice, I'd actually answer that question with a number. But what I will tell you is that I've got my coaching goes anywhere from $500 a month to $5,000 a month, depending on your budget, depending on your pace. A lot of people have a bag full of cash and they come to me and they're like, let's start weekly coaching. And I'm like, well, how many people are on your team? They're like, 2. I'm like, oh, okay, well then let's gear it back a little bit, because I don't change the information I share, but I show I change the pace at which we work together. So we would just sit together and talk about if we can find something that makes it work, then great. The most important thing is just kind of reaching out and talking about it regardless. So just shoot me an email.
Okay, thank you. Looks like that's all the questions we have today. Foster, that was awesome. It's great fun as always to see you, and I owe you a lunch, like I said last week. So I'm gonna reach out and we'll get together.
Yeah, or at least we'll go to Leo's and have a coffee.
Yeah, we'll meet at Leo's, because it's been almost a year and a half now.
That's crazy, man. No, I really appreciate it. Steelers forever. Thank you, Shannon. And thank you very much, David, and everybody. If you're not on a first name basis with David, please give him a call. He's a very, very valuable resource to you and your company, and knows a ton of people that can help if he doesn't have the answer himself. So thanks again for that opportunity.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming today. I really appreciate you, especially the folks like MJ and Leo that come every week. So great to see you guys. Foster, thanks again. It's always great to see you. And we'll see everybody next week. Thanks for joining. See ya.
Have a wonderful week.